All right, for our Ask the Expert series today, we have Jorge Gavilanes, who is an immigration attorney. Jorge, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
We appreciate your time with us today. We have a lot of clients who own property, perhaps out of the country. They may be immigrants, or they may be looking to people who are not U.S. citizens. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us for a few minutes. I'm curious, what are the biggest challenges or problems that you see with regard to immigration right now?
Unfortunately, I think one of the biggest issues we see is the amount of misinformation that's out there on how the process works. A lot of people know family members or friends or acquaintances that have gone through the process, who have been involved in some type of immigration related issue. But at the end of the day, it's very on. Once you get into the details, I think people start. That's the details is what matters, right? Just like anything else in the legal world, once you get into the nitty gritty, that's when we start seeing the differences in cases and outcomes and success rates. So unfortunately, there's just a lot out there that when it comes to the individual case, it can create this just unexpected or rather uncertainty in what to expect in the type of case.
So how do you guys solve that problem?
My advice would be always find a professional, an attorney that can explain for the individual case how the process is going to work, what options are available. If it's an individual trying to bring a family member or work with the immigration regarding a family member, then that's going to be different than on the business side, where you're trying to bring employees over or you're trying to meet some kind of need that your company has. So there's different visas available, different routes, timelines, costs, all that comes into play. And so then it's almost like I'm putting together the pieces, right? It's a big puzzle. And you tell me kind of what you want to do. And then I come on the other end and tell you, well, this is what actually is going to look like and not what, it's not always what you want it to look like.
Okay. So right now, what are you seeing as maybe one of the bigger problems that can be avoided with just a little bit of forethought?
That's an interesting question. Again, immigration touches a lot of areas, right? If we're looking at the family side, the individual side, unfortunately, I think it's realistic expectations, um, understanding what are the limits of your options based on the type of visa that the person might be on right now, or if no visa at all, what are the steps to follow after. On the employment side, I think it's timeline. That's one of the biggest issues. We have individuals, of course, that have an immediate need, right? They'll come to me and say, "I need to hire 10 people right now. I needed them yesterday," type of thing. But unfortunately, we're dealing with the government, and it's going to take some time to get them through the process, to get approvals done, and that's only if there's no audit put in place. Anytime you have an audit, I'm sure dealing with maybe tax related issues, you probably see that's just only going to make it more cumbersome, slow it down. And so unfortunately, that's when it becomes a challenge when we tell people, okay, you won't actually be able to bring these individuals for another year and a half. So it's almost like you have to get the ball rolling with 2 years ahead of time, right? And once you get that going, you start hiring now for 2 years down the road. Next year, you're hiring for 2 years after that, and so on. It's those initial months that become challenging.
Interesting. Do the same time limits apply if we're dealing with family matters?
Regarding family matters, it's different depending on the type of case that we're dealing with. If we're dealing with a spousal petition, someone's already in the United States, they enter with a visa, and it's a U.S. citizen petitioning for them. That's going to be a lot shorter, a lot smoother, especially if there's no criminal issues, no issues with visas in the past. We're looking more like a year to 15 months type of timeline. If it's someone that's here undocumented and we're just starting the process, they're going to need to leave the country to get a green card based on different requirements that are out there, then it's probably going to be looking more like 2 to 3 year time period. So it really depends on the individual situation. If it's a naturalization case, actually, we're seeing that they're moving pretty fast with naturalization applications right now, under 6 months. It's been surprising to see how quickly they're moving forward with those. at a time where we're past the elections, typically on election years, to try to move a little bit quicker for those who want to participate in the elections. But now that we're beyond that, it's been surprising to see that they're continuing to keep that speed.
That's interesting. So what are some opportunities that maybe people should be looking at, both from the business side and from the family side, if there's specific opportunities that could be uncovered right now?
Yeah, on the family side, we see a lot of individuals from Venezuela and Ukraine right now who are going forward with a special parole that's been created as a result of the situation that's going on in both of those countries. So if you have any individuals that you know or family members who are from either of those two countries, you could just petition for them. Just anyone. It doesn't have to be family member. It could just be a friend or an acquaintance. As long as you can provide some type of financial support or backing for them to come into the U.S. on a temporary basis. It's not going to lead to a green card, which, it's not going to lead to citizenship, but at least on a temporary basis, they're able to come into the U.S., kind of avoid the situation that's going on in those countries right now, and be able to put them to work, sort of thing, right? Here, especially if there's a kind of a workforce type of need, or a family member, right, trying to help them come in, instead of waiting for any type of refugee type of program that's going to take a lot longer. Also, it's very important to start talking to someone. These things take time, and unfortunately, what I see is it's scary, right? Sometimes it's scary to deal with these questions, and I'm sure you see it on your end. It's scary to take that step and start thinking like, okay, what's going to happen with my assets, right? I'm sure that you have that conversation with your clients. People come in, it's like, oh, we just don't want to think about it, right? It just seems so big, so overwhelming that we rather ignore it. And I would say that's probably the worst mistake people can make, ignoring the problem. It's not going to go away. So you might as well rip the Band-Aid off, come talk to someone. We can, set you on a path, set you on track, and you can start taking steps, a little bit of a time.
So someone coming and talk to you does not mean that they're necessarily reporting to any sort of government agency that's going to put them on any sort of special watch list or anything like that, correct?
Not necessarily. And no, anything that you file, if you're eligible to apply for anything with USCIS, which is U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, a lot of people refer to it as the INS. That was the agency pre 9/11. That's now changed to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Any affirmative application will not necessarily lead to enforcement. And so people who are concerned that might be an issue, that should not be the case. Also, speaking to an attorney, as an attorney, I'm going to keep our matters private, right? We have attorney-client privilege. And so I will not be disclosing this to anybody else outside of the conversation that we have. And so someone can come and talk to me about their issues, their case, and I can lay out what the options are, and they can take it from there.
Excellent. So you have been doing this for quite a few years. You know the ins and outs. Are there any other insight or tips or secrets that you might like to pass along?
Patience. Patience is key. That's the secret. And it's hard. We're dealing with individuals that this is going to affect their livelihood. It's going to affect their families. At times it can be very stressful. They're dealing with maybe some trauma as well, depending on what's been going on in their home countries. And it's hard to ask someone to be patient in a situation like that. But then we're dealing with, and it's understandable, we're dealing with backlogs. Of course, COVID has not helped at all. That's only increased the backlogs in the immigration courts and with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service applications. And so all that leads to added stress because it seems like the finish line is constantly just being pushed back. And I completely understand when people come to me and all I can do is say, just be patient. I can't even imagine being in that position. So it's just finding someone that you trust, finding someone that you can rely on, so that when that individual, that attorney tells you, you just have to be patient. You can just trust that they know what they're doing, and you can wait for that moment. And then once that application gets approved, it's just a big relief for everybody, not just the individual, the attorney as well, because we want to see our clients succeed. And so it's just a big moment after that.
All right. Well, thank you. With regard to someone looking for more information, where would you point them if they needed more information on these topics?
Yeah, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of bad information out there. So I think people have to be very careful on when they research immigration related questions. I would first say TikTok is not the right option. Right, I'm gonna start right there. There are a lot of attorneys out there on TikTok. Just be careful with what you're looking for. If you want basic information, I would go to the government agencies first. USCIS.gov is a good place to start. They're not going to give you legal advice. They shouldn't, and you should not take legal advice from government agencies. And then research a trusted attorney. Look at reviews, comments. There's a couple of sites out there that are peer reviewing attorneys. So I think maybe that's a good way to find someone that's trusted in the community. As far as other information regarding immigration, there's AILA, AILA.org. That's an Immigration Lawyers Association. You can find attorneys through that way. And then if you want to reach out to me, we have our website, immigration.net. We put a lot of information out there, monthly newsletter, sometimes weekly, depending on what's going on, and be happy to talk to anyone who has any questions about it.
So what is your service area? Where can you help clients? And then make sure that we get your phone number as well.
Great. Because it's immigration related, it's federal law. We practice all over the US. Actually, we have clients all over the world. It's not uncommon for me to be on a Zoom call like this with someone in the Middle East, South Africa, Asia. It's actually pretty exciting for me to come home and tell my family, my kids, I tell them, oh, you won't believe it. Today I had a conversation with someone in India or someone in Malaysia, and it's a pretty great opportunity to get to talk to people from around the world. So I'm really not limited to a specific geographic area. Now, if you're the type of person who would like to meet with someone face to face, then I'm in Atlanta, and so if it would be driving distance, I guess. But we've had people come in from the Carolinas, Alabama, Florida to meet with us in our office. We do offer Zoom or phone calls, so that's not a problem at all. Now, technology that allows us to meet this way. So I'm really not limited geographically. And then as a phone number, you can call my office. It's at 404-816-8611. And my direct number is 404-949-8178.
Well, thank you very much, Jorge. This has been very valuable information. I'm sure the people listening will find it to be very useful. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.